afternoon and welcome to day 2 of our special live broadcast, Humanity Before Borders. I am your host, Joseph McGowan, along with my colleague, Hadil Al-Khouly. We would like to thank all of you across the MENA region joining us via our satellite channel and all of you who are watching live stream via our social media channel on Facebook. And we would like to encourage all of you who are at home who want to stay up to date with what's happening here in the studio and on the border of Turkey and Bulgaria, to go to Facebook, type in Humanity Before Borders, which will be screened on our screen all throughout the program. Find out what's happening here, and what's happening here is definitely one of the humanity crisis, if you will. We've been talking about this since yesterday. 106 members of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light who are currently on the Turkish-Bulgarian border, about ready to walk up to the border tomorrow, march for their freedom, freedom from persecution, freedom from oppression, freedom from anti-Semitism, freedom for their life. I mean, and we talked about this yesterday, Hadil, and I want you to introduce yourself a little bit for those who were not here yesterday and give us a brief summary of what is going on the border. And then we have some exciting breaking news, very important news for these men, women, and children who are currently waiting on the border today.
Yes, my name is Hadil Al-Khouly. I'm the Human Rights Outreach Coordinator at the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. And what we do and what we've experiencing over the past year and a half is reports, Joe, from all over the Muslim region, Middle East and North Africa, reports from our members who are writing us with extreme forms of religious persecution that they are facing and asking for help. They don't know where to go. They don't know. They are literally running for their lives, running for their safety. They had no other choice but to gather in Turkey, where they're at right now. They have no safety in any of the Muslim majority countries, and their only hope right now is to be granted legal protection, to be granted asylum in Bulgaria. And this is what they've decided to do. 106 members of the religion, men, women, children, walking to the official legal border crossing after they have contacted the UNHCR, after they have coordinated with civil society organizations, even spoken to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Bulgaria to be granted visas on humanitarian grounds. These attempts, unfortunately, have been unsuccessful. So now they are taking a last shot at life, if you want to say, a last shot at safety, to present themselves at the official border tomorrow morning. They will be on their way, taking their buses, appearing and presenting themselves there and exercising their right as enshrined in international human rights conventions to lodge an application for asylum verbally at the border. And today, this is the breaking news, we have a large umbrella of organizations who have just now published an open letter to the Bulgarian authorities, to Frontex, the European agency that's responsible for monitoring the border, urging them to grant protection and to grant this group their right to lodge an application for asylum, for protection. As we said, Bulgaria and many of the countries in the EU are bound by, according to international human rights conventions.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because when you said that the members are at the border as a last attempt, I think it's important for all those who are watching at home to understand that this has been an ongoing situation, extreme acts of violence, of abuse, of persecution, of systematic conspiracy, if you will, by Muslim-backed states like Algeria, Iran, Iraq, Egypt, and we're seeing this now where they've taken the legal steps. They've done everything they could within their ability, and now they've reached a point where it's really a point of no return for them. They had to leave, but this was backed up. This is not something that they just did on their own as well, or they're supporting their own. So this has actually been supported by well-known, reputable, prominent human rights organizations all throughout the world. And we talked about this yesterday. We actually read the open letter that was being prepared, but this was just published publicly, which is a huge news. It's a big update. It's a breaking news for all of those who are waiting at the border, for all of you who are following the story. I want you to talk a little bit about Border Violence Monitoring Network. What does this mean, and what are they calling for? What are they supporting here?
Yes, so I hope the viewers are able to see the website where the letter is now published. and they will also be seeing it as a tweet from the network. And we will read the letter to you, but one of the main things is who are signing on this open letter.
Let's talk about some of these.
So the Border Violence Monitoring Network, who the letter was published on their website, this is a huge network who are doing incredible, tremendous work regarding monitoring the borders for the safety of refugees. So they are a network of over 14 organizations. And these organizations are active in over 40 European countries, and they have been actively monitoring, documenting illegal practices of so-called pushbacks and serious human rights violations that unfortunately occur against refugees in many of the European borders. And of course, this is an event where even though the 106 members are, whatever they are doing, their marches is within their rights, they are doing it in the legal pathways, there's still concern of violence occurring at the border, which we hope is not going to happen. But because these practices unfortunately did happen in the past, civil society organizations are stepping in, are addressing and urging the authorities, the Turkish and the Bulgarian authorities, to protect this group because they have presented themselves legally. What they're doing is, like we said, enshrined in the International Human Rights Conventions, in the Geneva Convention that Bulgaria and Turkey are bound by. So the Border Violence Monitoring Network has in the past released documentation, and they have even called it the black book of these illegal practices. They have documented on video and have written extensively and documented incidents of so-called pushbacks and violence by border police against refugees or asylum seekers.
Which is important because I think we talked about this yesterday. The members of this faith have already endured nightmares. I mean, just tragedies and horrific stories that we're going to get into later on all throughout this day before we cover tomorrow's event. But I think it's important to understand that it's not over yet. They're all waiting for their freedom. They're all sitting there preparing for tomorrow's march, and it's not a guarantee that they can actually get through the border. I think it's important for everybody to understand that, and we hope that the Turkish border police meet them with a light of understanding that they don't have any interest but other than just getting out and getting to a safe, protected place. And that's why we're covering this event, to help ensure their protection, to make sure that as many media, because we have international media, independent journalists on the ground, which we will be speaking to later on today. We're looking forward to an update from them, and we will be in constant contact with them tomorrow. But if we can, I'd like to read over this open letter, because I think it's going to help catch the audience up to what's been happening, what's going on, and what are they endorsing? What are they supporting here? What are they documenting that's public today? This is to the General Directorate of Border Police, Bulgaria, the Executive Director of the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, the Fundamental Rights Officer of the European Border and Coast Guard Agency. It says, "We, the undersigned, are writing to urge you to fulfill the fundamental rights obligations Bulgaria are bound by under the law on asylum and refugees, Article 18 of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights, Directive 2013-32 EU, the 1951 Geneva Convention relating to the status of refugees, and Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, namely the right to asylum and to a full and fair individualized assessment with the right to appeal for a group of," here is documented, 103 members, which now we've learned yesterday it's 106 members, of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. There is currently a group of 103 members of the faith who have gathered in Turkey after having fled persecution in their home countries. Listen to all of the countries, all the widespread persecution that is going on with the members of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. Algeria, Iran, Iraq, Azerbaijan, Jordan, Thailand, and Palestine. Members of the Ahmadi religion have been labeled as heretics and infidels in many countries due to their beliefs, a trend they report has worsened since the release of their gospel, Goal of the Wise. And we were talking about this yesterday. I just want to get a shot of this book. There have been many isolated incidents with the members of the faith over the last year or two due to their families, due to some of the local militias. But since this release of the Gospel Goal of the Wise, and because of the tenets of our faith, it is certain, it is clear that these beliefs, these believers in this book and in its leader, Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim, cannot coexist in these Muslim-backed states, to the point that it's gone beyond harassment, it's gone above and beyond abuse, it's gone above and beyond imprisonment and torture, and now they're going out issuing fatwas and religious rulings to absolutely just kill and eliminate the believers in these countries. So here I am. It's saying, members of the faith report that a number of the claims written in the book are considered heretical, and that they are considered contrary to other religious beliefs. These views, the group state, have led to their persecution through accusations of denigrating Islam. In fact, in Algeria and Iran, members have faced arrests and prison sentences for exactly this, being forbidden for exercising their rights to religious freedom. And in Iraq, they have suffered gunned attacks on their homes by armed militias, and scholars have called for them to be killed. There's a lot in this open letter, and I think we just need to slow down so we can digest this information a little bit, because if I was at home and I was hearing all of this, it's a lot to take in. We talked about this last night. If we can get this up on the screen for the viewers at home, the members in Iraq, one member actually, armed militia came to his house in the middle of the night and actually fired on his house, fired on his vehicle while he and his children were present in the house. And if you could tell us a little bit about the story, because this is not some idea, this is a confirmed fact that was backed up by CCTV footage, by the testimony, by the images and videos submitted, and also too by these human rights organizations that have now publicly been released.
I mean, Abbas was in his home. It was in the middle of the night. He had his children with him, and he was shocked to hear gunshots at his house, at his car. A group of masked men, unidentified, attacking his home, shooting at him, and it's really a miracle that he's still alive.
They're pulling up the footage.
You can see the footage. So that's the next day he was filming what happened. He had no protection. I mean,
look at the gunshot. I mean, clear. If somebody was sitting in his car, they're dead.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's a miracle that him and his family are safe, and that they are alive. But the scary thing is, he doesn't know when is this going to happen again. I mean, if something happens to you like this, the first thing you think of is, I need to protect myself, I need to protect my family. But he's in a situation where he has no way to protect himself. They could come back tomorrow, they could come back in a larger group. Because when he goes to the police and says, I got attacked, he's being asked on what basis. He said, well, I'm a member of this religion. And they say, well, if you are a member of this religion, you're an apostate. That means we should apply on you the verdict of an apostate, which is death.
So let me repeat, let me translate for those of you at home. At least I know if I was in America, 10, 15 years ago, and I heard that, it would probably go over my head. What she's saying is, there's a member of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, and just because of their beliefs, basic beliefs that we're going to go into today, they just had their house littered with bullets and their car while they and their children were in the house. When they go to report it to the police and to the local authorities, they ask, why do you believe you were shot at? They said, we believe we were shot at because of our beliefs and what we believe in. They said, well, too bad they didn't kill you. In fact, you are a non-believer in what we believe in, and we should kill you. Actually, we should execute you and finish the job. Is that what that's what you're saying, basically?
That's what he was told. And on top of that, he tried to follow up on the case because he filed a police report. And the crazy thing is, it would have been so easy to identify this as Abbas. It would have been so easy to identify who they were, because in Iraq and in his neighborhood, they had CCTV cameras. So
Can we pull up the CCTV footage? Look at his eyes. He's terrified. This is the night that he went to the police? This is the night that the house was shot?
Yeah.
He's terrified. His family, look, here. Up in the corner. See, look in the corner in between the railings there, you see the gunfires. So they have CCTV footage, and they actually had, you mentioned they had other footage too that they dismissed. The police wouldn't even use.
They dismissed. This is a side shot. He told them, take the footage from the front shot because you'll be immediately able to identify them. They refused. They said, no, what we have is enough. So they refused to take the evidence. He follows up a couple of days later, and he finds out that the police told them, we have closed this file because what? Because we don't have enough evidence. Can you believe that?
You have camera footage.
You have camera footage, you have a house. This is the police report here, you can see.
Not just tampering with evidence. It's not like you're not watching a Netflix series. These guys are literally just dismissing the evidence and happy, congratulating those who did this crime and wishing that they would have finished the job themselves so they wouldn't have to sully their hands. They wouldn't have to get their hands dirty and do it themselves, which they verbally expressed on their tongue to the member Abbas that actually that's what should happen to you because of what you believe. You and your family, you should be killed. So now you understand, and we're going to go into these stories and so much more because this is just one of many stories that are going on right now. And this is just one of 106 stories, and they all have, they're nightmares. I mean, they're actually, if you just try to envision, I want everybody watching this here in the community, here in the studio, at home, wherever you are watching this right now, imagine if this was your dad. Imagine if this was your brother, if this was your cousin, if this was your wife and children. What would you do? I mean, what is a person to do at this point? You're in your home country. You know, I'm in America. I'm in my house. All of a sudden, somebody just comes with AKs and like military hardware, and they come and practically blow up my house. I'm worried for my children and my wife, rightfully so. I go to the local authorities thinking that they're supposed to be protecting me, and they're laughing at me, and they're saying, you're an infidel, you're a donkey, you're a kafir, you're a this, you're a that. We wish you would have died, and you actually, by law, we believe that you should be executed. It's absolutely insane. I can expect it from countries like Iran and Iraq, but we're going to get into other stories like Algeria and things like this. It's just shocking. And now it's clear these people have nowhere else to go. This is not a case where, this is not a normal, I think, I want you to talk about this really quick. It's not like a normal migrant case or refugee case where people are wanting to flee to a new world, a better way of life, a happier way of life. They're looking for new opportunities. These people are literally fleeing because not only do they not have a life anymore, it's been totally ripped apart, but they're fleeing for their life.
Absolutely. They have told me specifically these words, we have no other choice. I mean, it's not easy to decide to take your family, your 6-month-old infant, and go to the biggest border in all of EU.
Maybe we can get some
It takes
pictures
a lot
up
of courage. We want to go into the cases specifically, but I also want to finish with the viewers the open letter to look at these organizations themselves.
Yes, okay, of course.
But no, it's of course an extremely dangerous situation.
It's just crazy. When I'm reading and I'm seeing that gunmen are attacking their homes and it's being supported by these organizations and it's clear documented evidence, but nothing's getting done. It's terrifying, to be honest with you. So, for the above reasons, many members of the group decided to flee their home countries and pursue their right to seek protection and freedom to practice their religion. They do not feel safe to lodge an application for international protection in Turkey due to the consistently documented violations of religious freedoms, including the criminalization of blasphemy or expressions deemed insulting to religious beliefs. Although Turkey is a secular country, President Erdogan has close ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, and in fact, a 2022 report from the European Parliament warns that in Turkey, religious minorities face sustained legal and administrative pressure. Furthermore, the criminalization of blasphemy under Article 216(3) of the Turkish Penal Code shrinks any space for views that are different to the country's mainly practiced Sunni Islam. In fact, Turkish singer Sezen Aksu received massive backlash for lyrics that describe Adam and Eve, who are considered holy figures in Islam, as, quote, ignorant, with President Erdogan promising to, quote, rip out the tongues of those who insult religious figures. This event has been pointed out by the Ahmadi group as one reason for their fear that their beliefs would be persecuted and considered heretical in Turkey. So maybe you can explain just briefly that, you know, in the Book of the Golden Wise, there are certain tenets and beliefs that an extremist country like Iran, Iraq, Algeria, they could take these and deem them as well as heretical, rip out their tongues, take their homes, kill them.
Yes, basically in the book, The Goal of the Wise, and we will go later into the exact tenets of beliefs, are beliefs that are deemed extremely controversial in Muslim-majority countries. And Season Exu's case, the singer, her statement and the reaction that she got is over a statement that would be considered far less controversial than the tenets of faith that are outlined and written in this book. And we do hope that Turkey will allow the group to exit and to claim their asylum. But the reasons why the group feels unsafe to lodge an application for protection in Turkey, because Turkey is a Muslim-majority country, and we have seen now there was a massive or sweeping persecution against believers exactly because of these tenets of faith.
Yes, absolutely. Continuing, in light of this, the group do not feel safe to lodge their applications for international protection in Turkey, as they fear they will be faced with similar persecution, as you said, to that which they have fled in their own countries. As a result, they have tried to seek legal pathways, very important to note here, legal pathways to Bulgaria, and have contacted the UNHCR in Bulgaria, the State Agency for Refugees, and even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to request a visa on humanitarian grounds. All these efforts have been unsuccessful, and you mentioned that yesterday, that they have been met frustratingly with little to no success. But at the same time, too, we see in this letter that has now been made public, there are big organizations that are getting behind this. And we have hope for our brothers and sisters who are on the border waiting to march tomorrow, that all will be well. And that now we see, as a result, they are planning to present themselves at the official Kapakul border crossing point between Turkey and Bulgaria this Wednesday, actually tomorrow, to request asylum in front of the Bulgarian border police. We, the undersigned, urge that this request be respected in line with the Article 58.4 of the Law on Asylum and Refugees, which states asylum can be applied for with a verbal statement submitted in front of the border police. So let's stop right there and just make that really clear for the audience. They have taken all the legal pathways. Yes. They have done everything they can in their own home countries. They've done everything they can while they've been waiting in Turkey via the internet and phone calls, and everybody's been working very hard. Now you're telling me, and it's stating here publicly, endorsed by all of these organizations, that it isn't within their legal right to march right now, tomorrow, up to the border and request asylum for their life.
Absolutely. This is something that countries all over the world have come together and put in their conventions that they have all signed and agreed on. So this is a law, this is an article, this is a recognized right that countries around the world have came together and agreed on. Because a refugee is someone whose own state is saying, I cannot protect you, I will not protect you. So now he is forced to seek protection internationally. And obviously they're fleeing dangerous situations, and that's why in international law they are given the right to claim asylum at the border.
Yes. The above information has demonstrated that the group have a well-founded fear of religious persecution, and rightfully so, and risk their right to freedom of expression if they are forced to return to their home countries or to remain in Turkey. Therefore, we, the undersigned, call for their applications for international protection to be registered, lodged, and treated with full individualized assessments in Bulgaria in line with national law, European Union law, and international human rights law. And below are the signatories, and this is what we want to focus on now. Let's talk about some of the human rights organizations who have been supporting us from the beginning, especially in this open letter that was just literally released publicly before we came on air today. It was huge news. We were all excited. Everybody should understand how important this is, who these organizations are, and what this means for the men and women and children who are waiting at the border.
Yes. Let me actually just quickly read out the names for you so you see how many organizations are actually endorsing this open letter at such a critical point, just hours away before the group approaches the border tomorrow. So the signatories are the Border Violence Monitoring Network, we've talked about them, Mobile Info Team, Northern Lights Aid, Collective Aid, Mission Wings Foundation organization in Bulgaria, Center for Legal Aid Voices in Bulgaria, another NGO in Bulgaria, Bibliofem, Greece, Association on Refugees and Migrants in Bulgaria, Sea-Watch, Europe Cares, Hope and Humanity Poland, Project Elpida, Mobile Info Team, Africa Working Group of the International Rights and International Religious Freedom, Roundtable, Washington, D.C., Bitter Winter Magazine, Human Rights Without Frontiers, one of the biggest organizations in the EU who have been also working closely with us on the Iranian case. Samos Volunteers, Be Aware and Share, Network Anthropia, Inter-European Humanitarian Aid Association, We Are Here, Solidarity Tree, Set My People Free from Sweden, an organization in Sweden, Solidarity with Migrants, Voice for Justice, Legalize Apostasy, United Macedonian Diaspora, and Professor Arya Rasfar, the Professor of Linguistics and Education at the University of Illinois, Chicago, who's also Director of the Religion on our board, and of course the President, the head of the religion, the riser of the family of Muhammad, Abdullah Hashim Abbas Sadiq from the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. So here you have a huge list, a long list of so many organizations, and look at the broad spectrum of all the different countries they're from all over the European Union, organizations that have a long record of working for years on the rights of asylum seekers, on the rights of migrants and refugees who have such a profound and deep understanding of the rights in international human rights conventions and as well of the situation. And they understand that these 106 members have a right to be protected, have a right to claim asylum in this way, and that's why they have all mobilized and collectively endorsed this this call, this request, and on top of that are collecting, I mean, that's the idea of the open letter. Who they are addressing it to? They are addressing it to the Bulgarian authorities. They are addressing it to Frontex, the European agency that's responsible for the borders. Collectively, they are urging these authorities to work with their commitments to what they have committed themselves to in international law, which in summary means that these organizations understand that this move, one, is dangerous, one is risky, but it's their right. It's their human right, and they're doing it in the right way. They're doing it in the way that the law tells them to do it, and they're urging these governments to work and apply their commitment, what they, like I said, they have committed themselves to. So if you look at these organizations, some of them are umbrellas, they're networks. So the Border Violence Monitoring Network, like I said, is in itself already a network of organizations from over 50 countries all over the European Union.
That's huge.
And I would especially like to highlight here the Association on Refugees and Migrants in Bulgaria, and the director of the organization, Dr. Tanya, who has been incredibly supportive, who really from day one understood how urgent this situation is and how many lives are literally at stake.
Thank you.
And through her, thank you so much, Dr. Tanya. She has been incredible. She helped networking, helped that the case gets heard, whether with the state agency for refugees in Bulgaria, who have also been supportive, who have also said, make it to the Bulgarian territory and we will allow you to pledge and to lodge your application.
I mean, let's go back and rehash that a little bit. And I think it's important to mention, you know, the Ahmadi religion of peace and light is an officially recognized religion. We are a 501c3 religion in the United States of America, albeit we are a religious minority, but we are an extremely oppressed religious minority. And organizations like this would not support openly or put in the amount of effort and work and sincerity, not just in the documents and in the phone calls and the emails and the research and the case studies, but to we actually have organizations live on the ground tomorrow on the other side waiting for these men, women, and children to get across to give them support and aid. So express that they've done their due diligence. These organizations are supporting these men and women because they see the clear acts of violations and persecution and anti-Semitism, but more importantly, the threat of their life. They know that there is no more going back, and we talked about that yesterday. If they go to the border, and we pray and we hope that the Turkish border police it's a different case when they go there, that they understand this, that they are seeking their human right for life. But if they are stopped, there's no more going back. And I think this is what is clear in this document, and that's what's clear when these organizations have gathered the way they have to support. We have now seen, and you've worked with them, and thank you for all your work for the last year. You've been working very hard, and you understand the severity. They've been through the torture. They've been through the imprisonment. Some of them are actually under, they have to go back. Iran or Iraq saying you have to come back for court. They know that they're going to go away, and they face torture or potential executions. They still have family members that are in the actual prisons as we speak. So there's no going back for them, and that's what these organizations are saying.
For sure. We have a very clear case of systematic targeting and religious persecution against members of this religion in Muslim majority countries. It is a clear fact, it is established, it's documented, and these organizations, they, like I said, they understand the human rights law, they understand the facts of this case, and it is clear that they have no safety in any of these countries and in any Muslim majority country. So these list of organizations understand that this is the purpose of their work, to make sure that any human being gets to fully exercise their human rights as enshrined in international human rights law. And so these group of people fall within that. Their lives are at stake, and these organizations understand the urgency of this situation as we speak. So, like I said, the Association Refugees and Migrants has been, in Bulgaria, have been incredibly supportive, and the organizations in Bulgaria have mobilized and worked and understand and are aware of this case. Many of these other organizations I've mentioned, Mission Wings Foundation and the Center for Legal Aid Voices in Bulgaria, these are all very active organizations in Bulgaria. And
some international organizations, and perhaps not on the signatories as well, but Amnesty has been vital in the case from the beginning. And maybe you can touch a little bit about that as well. Like in the case in Algeria, when members of the faith, 3 members were actually imprisoned and served sentences, and we believe that it was. Amnesty played a vital role in ensuring that they were released and not serving their full prison sentence and what could potentially have been a much more dangerous situation for them.
Yes, Amnesty International has put a lot of attention on the case in Algeria, and they have released several press releases urging and calling upon the Algerian authorities to drop charges against the members of the religion. And it was because of Amnesty International's involvement and the pressure in their press releases that the court sentence was, the appeal was made, and the charges were dropped, and the group was released. And when we go over the different countries, I'd love to go into more details of how the case unfolded, but they have been on the case in Algeria from day one. They have spoken to members there, to Ridwan, and because, like I said, their press releases, because of the international attention that they brought on the case, thankfully, Ridwan was able to be back with his families.
I think we should probably start with this because, to understand this full picture, we need to go back to the beginning. I do believe Algeria was a jumping point for all of these terrible events to start taking place. So that's where we saw a lot of the first cases coming out. It began there. So after we come back from a break, we're going to cut to a quick documentary covering the Algerian case to catch everyone at home up to speed with what has happened over this last year. And then we're going to bring on a special guest, Yasmin. She's been working very closely with the men, women, and children in Algeria. She has family over there, and she has very close relations over there. She's going to inform us of all of the persecution and all that they've been through over the last period. So please stay tuned, come back. We will be back within the next 15 minutes. Thank you for joining us. Again, if you want to stay up to date with what's happening in the studio and what's happening on the ground in this March for Tomorrow's Freedom, please go to our Facebook Live event, Humanity Before Borders. We will be back in 15 minutes.
It is totally unheard of, unprecedented. It has never been done before. More than 100 refugees from over 10 different countries, unified under the banner of religious persecution and threat for their very own lives, are currently gathered together in Turkey and will march together on Wednesday the 24th of May towards the border of Bulgaria and present themselves and ask legally and officially for asylum as refugees. For these men and women, there is no longer any way back. The only way now is forward. And the reason why is that they are fleeing their own countries because their religious beliefs have earned them actual death threats, torture, and imprisonment. Turkey today finds itself in a key position in front of the whole world and in front of God, to take a stance and play a historical role in the history of asylum and human rights. Turkey can literally save over 100 lives, over 100 people who love dearly the Prophet Muhammad and his family, over 100 people who have dedicated their whole lives to seeking and practicing the truth. Over 100 people who love God and monotheism. Turkey, over 100 lives are in your hands today.
The World Economic Forum says that the legal duty of every government towards its people is to protect and provide. The House of Lords of the United Kingdom states that the duty of a government towards its citizens is to protect and safeguard the rights of the individual. Among these rights is the individual's right to liberty. The most basic duty of the government is to protect the people who live in their country. But for the believers in Imam al-Mahdi that live in Algeria, this unfortunately was not the case.
They were not criminals. They were not doing any illegal activity. They did nothing that made how they were dealt with okay.
On the 2nd of April 2022, believers in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light were summoned to the police for questioning.
There was no crime that they had committed. It was simply because of their belief in the religion.
The believers in Algeria consist of a group of men, women, and children. As law-abiding citizens of Algeria, their shock grew when the questioning turned to an actual police raid, leading to the arrest of 3 of their members, none of whom had any criminal record.
They broke in, terrorizing the people living in the house, including one old woman and children. They took their personal belongings, identification documents, electronic devices. It was honestly an unreal experience to know this could happen. They did nothing to deserve such treatment.
According to the Constitution of Algeria, Article 51 states that freedom of conscience and freedom of opinion shall be inviolable. Freedom of worship shall be guaranteed and exercised without discrimination in compliance with the law. The state shall impartially guarantee the protection of places of worship. The strange part is that although the Constitution of Algeria does allow the freedom to preach and express your faith, the believers living there were punished for doing so, even though they were sitting quietly in their homes and not causing any disruption of any sort at all.
إذن مصيرنا الآن أمام هذه العدالة وهذه التصرفات التعسفية وعدم احترام حتى حرمة العائلات. حرمة، ترون هنا نساء رجال وزوجات وأطفال، وكل مرة نستدعى بالأطفال والنساء ويهينوننا بديانتنا، يهينوننا ويستهزئون بنا، خاصة فيما يخص النساء. لماذا أنت لا ترتدي الحجاب؟ من طرف الأمن الدرك الوطني والبيري، ويستهزئون بديننا. هذه هي شهادة، لأن غدا إن شاء الله على الساعة 8:30 سنتقدم أمام المحكمة، والمصير يبقى بين يد هذه المحكمة، وإن شاء الله نتمنى أن تكون عادلة ومنصفة. نطلب فقط أين حقوقنا في الاعتقاد بالدين، أن نؤمن بما نريد ليس بما يريدون هما. هاوليك سؤالنا، هذه شهادة، وإن شاء الله واحد بواحد يشهد أن ما قلته هذا محل لكي لا نطول عليكم.
These innocent men and women were called to the court in Bajaya. 3 of these men were arrested. Their heads were shaved, and they were subjected to inhumane treatment in the prison cells of Algeria. The indecent treatment of these innocent men, who were arrested and detained before receiving a fair trial, led to Redouane Foufa suffering from a heart attack and no medical support.
So when Redouane, Kherdit and Sherif were in prison, Redouane had some health issues, and he actually had COVID and then followed with a heart attack. He lost a lot of weight, and the thing is they were so careless with them that if it wasn't for Kherdin, Redouane would have been dead at this time, because he was having a heart attack, but no one came to help him. And actually the time that they spent there in prison was really mentally tiring, because people even in prison were like calling them kuffar, and they were calling them names, and the guards and the people in there made sure that everyone does that to them.
Donc ce qui s'est passé, c'est que pendant la période de mon emprisonnement, après une privation de nourriture pendant 2 mois, j'ai eu une contamination du sang. Je ne sais pas d'où vient la contamination. J'ai demandé des soins médicaux qui m'ont été refusés auprès de l'institution de la prison. Ils m'ont été refusés, même une visite médicale m'a été refusée. Donc je suis resté avec des séquelles, des malaises cardiaques répétitifs pendant plus de 2 mois. Au bout de 2 mois, j'ai des cloques qui sont apparues sur tout mon corps, surtout mon bras gauche et mon dos. Des cloques qui ont commencé, et puis il y a eu de la chair qui s'est durcie. Donc je suis resté dans cet état-là pendant plus de 2 mois. Ils m'ont laissé dans cet état-là. Au bout de 2 mois, j'ai commencé à avoir des malaises, des petits malaises cardiaques, que j'ai réclamé une visite médicale qui m'a été refusée. Et un de ces jours, pendant notre sortie dans la cour régulière, j'ai eu des sueurs froides et j'ai perdu connaissance pendant plus de 45 minutes. Donc les amis, les frères qui étaient avec moi m'avaient raconté que j'avais perdu connaissance et que mon corps était devenu bleu et que j'étais froid et ma respiration s'est arrêtée. Même mon rythme cardiaque s'est arrêté. Ils m'ont transporté, des prisonniers m'ont transporté au niveau, ils disent qu'au niveau de l'infirmerie. Mais à mon réveil, j'étais dans une cellule enfermée. Je me suis réveillé spontanément et de là, après mon réveil, on m'a ramené à ma cellule. Donc la question qui se pose, quelle était l'intention de l'administration pénitentiaire de me laisser dans cet état-là? De laisser quelqu'un qui se plaint de malaise cardiaque et de contamination du sang et infection au niveau de la peau et même de la chair, et que j'ai des séquelles actuellement. Quelle est l'intention de cette institution, de cette procédure? Donc je veux témoigner pour ça une tentative, ce que j'appelle moi, non-assistance à personne en danger, une tentative de tuer quelqu'un. Donc ce témoignage, je le fais pour que les gens sachent ce qui se passe en Algérie. Merci beaucoup.
It is the duty of a government to protect its civilians. Yet the Algerian government failed to provide these law-abiding citizens with the right to their freedom, their dignity, and their right to free speech. They were charged for participating in an unauthorized group, as well as for mocking Islam. As the Algerian government clearly only accepts their own state-sponsored version of Islam, since many versions of Islam exist in today's day and age. Article 41. Every person shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty by an ordinary jurisdiction in accordance with a fair trial that ensures all the requisite guarantees for his defense. Ultimately, the court decided to release the prisoners after awareness of the unjust ordeal of these innocent people was spread, thanks to Amnesty International. The Algerian government made the empty claim that the believers in the call of Imam al-Mahdi went against Article 144 of the Penal Code of the State of Algeria, an article that prohibits any defamation of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family. Yet the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, a religion that calls to humanity before religion, is far from being defamatory to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, who is considered to be a central figure of this blessed call.
They were told in investigations that because they believe in this religion, all rights as a citizen were dropped off of them. It's like as if you don't exist in this country.
Even though the charges were dropped off of these members of the faith, and they are released, the fatwa against them still stands, declaring them as heretics, which means their life is in constant danger from fundamentalist groups in Algeria. It means they cannot work or study, amongst other things, and there were travel bans imposed on some of the members. Furthermore, they are not allowed to gather or practice their faith in Algeria.
After they were arrested, and for the people who were under house arrest, there was a sister Rabha who has some kids with her, and her family to put pressure on her to leave the house and to leave the religion, to drop it. What they did is they had this official document from a higher official in Algiers, which is the capital of Algeria, where he allowed them to go and take her kids just because she believed in that religion, and somehow they were scared for the kids. So her family just went there in the house like with a lot of men, and they started like hitting the doors and shouting at them, putting pressure on them and trying to scare them and telling her, we're gonna take your kids if you don't drop it. And this is how Algeria function. It's like okay, you don't want to follow our law, that what we do is we put like the whole community, Algerian community, against you, and we will use anything. Even if we have to take the kids from you, if you're not doing what we want, then this is what's gonna happen. Can you imagine, like, you spend a half a year being persecuted by the government and the Algerian community, and you were living in a space where you were actually feeling secure because you were with your own people, and then they release you out there with those monsters and are ready to kill you because you believe in something completely different for them.
According to US CIRF.gov, imprisoning individuals charged with or convicted of blasphemy constitutes a particularly severe religious freedom violation, as identified in the International Religious Freedom Act, IRFA, because it denies an individual the right to liberty on the basis of this manifestation of their religion or belief.
So the Minister of Religion came out with this fatwa against them that they should be stopped. So these people are apostates. They mocked our religion and they don't believe in what we believe. So they have to stop because they believe that the alcohol is permissible. But excuse me, you live, for the people who live in Algeria, I mean, you come into a town after, like, you see trees. The first thing that you see from the town is a bar. I mean, alcohol is everywhere, so I don't know exactly what they are saying. And because we believe that Ramadan, it's not when they think it is by following the moon, but we believe that it's in December. So because of this, these people have to be stopped.
Algeria is not the only government that failed to live up to its own constitution. With the release of the book, The Goal of the Wise, the tenets of this call were clarified for the world at large. This book became quickly renowned for its revolutionary concepts and unapologetic stance on declaring the truth, as well as the beliefs that are part of the Seventh Covenant, as described by the author Abdullah Hashim Abu-Sadiq. It was then that the believers around the world in different countries saw a sudden prejudice against them from their very own governments. Beliefs mentioned in the book, The Goal of the Wise, were cited as grounds and reasons for the religious persecution against members of the faith in Muslim-majority countries. These beliefs include believing in the Star of David as a symbol of the call of Imam al-Mahdi, believing the words of Imam Ahmad al-Hassan, that 99% of all religions are wrong, including Islam. Words such as these, indicating corruption in the religion, are seen as blasphemy in Muslim-majority countries, considering the drinking of alcohol being permissible, an act that is forbidden in Islam. Considering the headscarf not obligatory to wear for women, the removal of this garment is punishable by death in countries such as Iran and Saudi Arabia. Believing in tolerance towards homosexuals, whom are considered to be punishable by capital punishment in Muslim-majority countries. Among many other beliefs that the governments identifying as Islamic would potentially see as inflammatory, and they would see that silencing these ideas was worth breaking human rights laws over. And this is exactly what took place. Suddenly, around the world, different countries began displaying severely prejudiced behavior towards their civilians who were members of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light.
Welcome back to our live broadcast, a special broadcast, Humanity Before Borders. We are now joined with Yasmin here with my colleague Hadil, and we just had breaking news. We want to go to it right now. For all the viewers at home, we have been talking about for the last 2 days how 106 members are currently on the Turkish-Bulgarian border waiting for their march to freedom tomorrow, and we actually just received news that we have them live. If we can go to that call now, we would love to see all the men, women, children. We actually have 2 independent journalists that are on the ground. We would love to speak with them. I'm trying to see if we have that feed ready. If you guys can give us a cue.
And this is huge. We're now, for the very first time, we are speaking.
Here they are. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Our dear brothers and sisters, everyone waiting here in Turkey. This is such a momentous occasion here to see all of your faces. We've been talking about this over the last 2 days, really, and these men, women, and children who have been through horrific cases of persecution in all of their respective countries have now gathered together, and they're about to make their final stand and their final march to freedom tomorrow on the Turkish-Bulgarian border. We do have a correspondent there on the ground, Alexandra, if she is available. Can you hear me, Alexandra? Can you give us a little bit of a feedback, a little bit idea what's going on, some of the feelings between the men, women, and children that are about ready to make the march tomorrow?
Can't really hear her.
Now, by leaving Turkey, suffering incredibly horrible persecution in their home countries. Now they've come to Turkey, but they still need to leave and get over the border to Bulgaria to actually be safe and away from Muslim countries where they're being endlessly persecuted.
Yes. We're happy to see that you made it on the ground safely. Now, you will be joining them live tomorrow on the march. We will be in constant contact with you, which is going to start tomorrow very early our time, about 3:13 in the morning. And we just want to get an idea. I'm sure you've had a chance now this morning, today, to speak with some of the men, women, and children. What are some of their sentiments? How are they feeling about the march tomorrow? If you can give us some of your feedback that you've heard from them.
I mean, we've actually just got here today. We've spoke to some of the Thai Ansar earlier, and, you know, their stories were just very emotional. They've been through so much, and they're just really desperate to get to a place where they can be safe enough to just believe in their religion in peace and not be harassed and attacked for it. You know, we've got some clips of some incredibly emotional stories, which we're going to try and share with you guys as soon as possible.
Yes.
And I think the feeling is just really a lot of desperation here, and, you know, been through a lot of traumatic experiences, really.
Yes. You guys have so much work, and really all of us here are behind you guys. We're with you every step of the way. We were going to leave you to that. We're going to let you talk to the men, women there. Please, if you can turn the camera, we would love to show all the viewers at home, all the dear men, women, and children. Seriously, all of you, God be with you. All of us are here with you. And we wish here very soon to see you guys make it across the border. We understand, I'm hearing now, that they have a prepared statement. If you guys would like to begin, please.
السلام عليكم الأخوة والأخوات. أهلا بكم أخوتي وأخواتي. احنا سمعنا إنه عندكم بيان. أهلا بكم وسعداء جدا بأن احنا بنتكلم معاكم اليوم، وفهمنا أن انتوا عندكم بيان حابين تلقوه. فإن شاء الله إذن الفرد اللي هيقرأ البيان لو حابب أن هو يقف ويتفضل بإلقاء البيان. So just to translate quickly, the group has prepared a statement on why they are making this move tomorrow. They would like to read it now for us in Arabic, yes. And I'd be happy to translate it. تفضل.
نحن أتباع دين السلام والنور الأحمدي من جنسيات مختلفة من العراق، أذربيجان، الجزائر، المغرب وتايلاند وإيران والأردن، ومن مختلف شرائح المجتمع العلمية والثقافية. نحن عوائل ونساء وأطفال وشيوخ وشباب سحبت من العديد منا جنسياتهم وحق العيش في بلداننا بسبب فتاوي دينية وأحكام قضائية. ونحن الآن نعلن سبب وجودنا هنا والهروب من الخطر الذي تعرضت له في بلداننا العربية والإسلامية، والتمييز العنصري والطائفي والاضطهاد الذي تعرضنا له. اتخذنا خطوة التوجه إلى الحدود والمطالبة بحقوق الإنسان بحرية الاعتقاد. نحن نبحث عن العيش بأمان لنا ولأطفالنا، ونلزم الدول بما هم يدعون به من حقوق الإنسان بحرية الفكر والاعتقاد. شكرا.
باللغة الفرنسية. البيان باللغة الفرنسية.
السلام عليكم. Hear the statement in French.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Déclaration de notre démarche ici en Turquie. Nous sommes les adeptes de la religion, de paix et de lumière Ahmadi, de différentes nationalités d'Irak, d'Azerbaïdjan, d'Algérie, du Maroc, de Thaïlande et d'Iran et de Jordanie et de Palestine, et de divers segments sociaux et culturels de la société. Nous sommes des familles, des femmes, des enfants, des personnes âgées et des jeunes. Beaucoup d'entre nous ont été dépossédés de leur nationalité et du droit de vivre dans nos pays à cause de fatwas religieuses et de décisions de justice. Nous déclarons maintenant que la raison de notre présence ici est d'échapper aux dangers auxquels nous avons été exposés dans nos pays arabes et islamiques, ainsi qu'à la discrimination raciale et sectaire et à la persécution dont nous avons été victimes. Nous avons pris l'initiative d'aller jusqu'aux frontières et d'exiger le droit de l'homme, de liberté de croyance. Nous recherchons une vie sûre pour nous et nos enfants.
Et nous exigeons les pays à respecter ce qu'ils revendiquent des droits de l'homme, la liberté de penser et de croire. Merci.
Thank you very much, our dear brothers and sisters. It's really surreal seeing them live.
And we have another speech. Sorry,
Yes,
Joe.
yes, of course, please.
Thank you.
We are followers of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light from different nationalities, from Iraq, Azerbaijan, Algeria, Morocco, Thailand, Iran, and Jordan and Palestine. We come from various cultures and academic segment of society. We are families, women, children, elderly, and youth. Many of us have had their citizenship and the right to live in their countries stripped from them because of religion, fatwas, and court rulings. We are now announcing that the reason for our presence here is to escape from the danger that we have been exposed to in our Arab and Islamic countries, and the racial and religious discrimination and persecution to which we have been subjected. We have taken the step of marching to the border and demanding our human right of freedom of faith. We are seeking a safe life for us and our children, and we are obligating countries to provide for us what they claim to adhere to of human rights, the freedom of expression and freedom of faith. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Alexandra. We will be in touch with you throughout the day and tomorrow. God bless all of you, brothers and sisters, and we wish you all of the luck, and we are going to be with you every step of the way. And as I was saying, it's really touching, it's surreal to put all those faces, those 106 faces that we've been speaking about over the last 2 days. And Yasmin, you actually have very close connections. That was your uncle talking
to them.
Actually
really emotional when the first time I saw them sitting there. I was actually tears coming to my eyes, but I'm actually happy that this is happening.
Yes.
It is time for the people to wake up, because it's like we are not fooled. And for them releasing the Algerian when they were in prison, it wasn't freedom. It was actually just throwing them in a bigger prison. It's like putting them in danger. It was a way for them to not have like the dirty hand. It should be like for the people to take care of them. And like after that fatwa, and like I remember once my mom told me after Ridwan was released, she was like, sometimes I'm actually scared to go out because I don't know if someone would just grab me and cut my head off. Or
in Algeria?
Yeah, in Algeria, it's like you have that fear.
Your mom's there right now.
Yeah, she's there too with them, and to like people, they need to see this, they need to know in like which countries they are living, because somehow they have this daily life and they just go through like they're all in their own bubbles. It's like my work, my family. They feel oppressed by the government, but it's like this is how it should be. But no, it's not how it should be. It's like what happened in Tunisia when they fought that president. They did it in Algeria. They did it in Egypt. It's just like it has to be everyone. It's not just one person talking and not just one person fighting. It's like the whole Algeria has to stand up, for their own people. It's like, how can you allow this? Even families. It's like my own family is like saying to Ridwan or to my mom, to me, it's like, okay, we have nothing to do with you. Why? Why? I'm supposed to find refuge, you're supposed to be my shelter. But no, actually, it's not like that. It's like your shelter is elsewhere. Just go there and find it there in the wild, Like you cross countries and you think, okay, maybe this country will take it in, but no. It's like, as long as you don't go with our laws, then I'm not accepting you. Just go try somewhere else,
For those of you watching at home and via live stream on the internet, you have been a part of this case from the very beginning. And as we mentioned, the gentleman that was speaking in French, this is your uncle. Yeah. Your mother is currently there on the border. You've been in close contact with him for many months. how are they taking all of this? What are some of the sentiments that you are finding for the march tomorrow? What's the energy like? Can you kind of give us a little bit of an insight, a little in-depth insight of what's going on there on the ground? Because of course this was a prepared statement for me. Like I said, this was something to see their faces. You're right, it does bring a new context to the story. What are they telling you on the ground? What's the feedback from the men and women that are waiting to march tomorrow?
To be honest, it's a lot of excitement. It's like these people are trying to change the world. These people are ready to fight. These people are ready to be heard. So it's like when you call them and when you talk to them, you feel, okay, we went through all of this, but now it's time for us, for the people to hear our stories, like for the people to wake up. They want a shelter. They want people to take them in and say, hey, you're okay, you can believe in whatever you want because you're a human being, I'm accepting you. It doesn't matter, you can be Christian, you can be Jewish, you can be Muslim or whatever, as long as you are a human being, as long as, it's like I can take you in. So yeah, like you can feel that excitement for them. They've been waiting for this for a long time, and
it's a beautiful courage. It really, what a faith at Hadil. I mean, and you've spoken with these brothers and sisters, these men and women, for them to, you've been saying it for the last 2 days, take the legal steps to do everything right, to endure this horrible oppression and persecution, yet still stand for your faith and say, look, this is my right. I'm not doing anything wrong. And I've asked you this, and I'm going to ask it again for the people. What have they done wrong? I mean, and maybe you guys can talk a little bit about what has brought all this about, and a lot of this is actually stemmed from, it began in Algeria, and what have these men and women and children that the people just saw on camera, what is their crime?
I mean, first off, I have to say right after we watched this video that I am forever just as I was over the last year and a half, and I continue today to be completely touched and humbled by their courage, but also at their hope for life, at their hope to be living a life where they can exercise their rights as human beings, where they believe, they have full conviction in their rights to exercise their freedom of religion. They have full conviction in their rights that their children have a right to live safely, in their conviction that they have a case, that they deserve this protection, that they deserve this recognition, and they are not scared to stand in front of the biggest border in the whole of the EU and say, this is my case, this is my right, here I am with my 6-month-old baby, with my mom, with my brother, with my sister, hand in hand. These are your conventions, and here I am. You say that refugees should go away from illegal ways of entry. Here I am. I'm presenting myself legally, openly in the biggest border, coming after I have went through all the legal pathways. I have a claim, I have a right for protection, and I am exercising it. I am touched by their courage despite all the dangers, and I applaud their faith, their courage, and that they take the stand. And I hope and I'm certain that anyone who's watching this and that these authorities hear this call, read the open letter, and they also meet them at their goodwill, meet them at their expectation, that they say, we also recognize that this is a group that deserves that protection, and these are the rights that we have committed ourselves to, and that we will provide for them.
Absolutely. And we know God is the best protectors, but we want to encourage all of you who are watching at home who want to bring light to this matter to call in, talk to us, share your support, reach out to media outlets, reach out to your local agencies. We want to also encourage all the organizations who are watching this. Thank you. And we also would like you to, reach out to your media outlets and get in touch with us. Go to our Facebook Live events page. Let them know what's happening here, because the more light we bring to this story, the more these men, women, and children are going to be protected and exercising their legal rights, which you so rightfully said, and what's been in the open letter. This is their human right to go to the border and request asylum. Because, and I want to go to you now, Yasmin. They don't have any other way. This is a point of no return. They've crossed that threshold. We've talked about some of the cases in Iraq and Iran, and in this hour we want to talk more about, focus more what's happened in Algeria, and obviously you've been very close to that with your family and the men, women, and children there. There's no home to go back to. There's no life to go back to. This is a last stand, the last march for them.
Of course, which home are we talking about? You know, after all what the government, the police have done to them, it's just impossible. It is, they just created that, like I said, like their own life, the only home will be a house. They cannot go outside of that house.
And even that house is not safe.
Because why? Because one of the things that was said when they were released from prison is that they have to dispatch. Like everyone should go away, that you cannot live together anymore. And where are you sending these people? You're sending to the people, to the families that they don't want them, to friends that are insulting them and harassing them, to people who want to take kids from them, It's like, so which home are we talking about?
You mentioned this, and we were watching in the documentary, and here's some of this is your uncle here with some of the men, women, and children and the members of the community.
Sharif is one of the people who were in jail, by the way. So he was one of the people who were sentenced.
Sentenced for 1 year in prison and served 5 months of that for absolutely no crime other than just believing in this religion, believing in its leader, Abu Sadiq, Abdullah Hashim, believing in this book, this gospel of ours, which tenets I think most people in the world will come to understand are not punishable by death and not punishable by this extreme persecution. This man here, our leader, Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim, who he himself has faced numerous death threats from governments, Iran, Iraq, militias. It's absolutely, it's insane. And I think this is what we want to bring to light today. And all of this started in Algeria, and maybe you can take us back a little bit. You were receiving some reports and some phone calls, and they were requesting some help from you as well. And I want to hear this discussion between you two, that they felt like in the beginning they were being. So you mentioned that the families were obviously oppressing them, taking some children away or taking making it.
After.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but they felt followed. They felt watched.
This is how it started. It's like they felt that someone was watching them, a car being in front of their house, and it was always the same car. And then one day, so Ridwan was with Othman, so they went to the optician to get glasses for his wife, for Othman's wife. And then, so after they came out, like you have I think 14 officials, it's like from the BRI. And they were surrounding them, and they stopped by Ridwan. They were like, "Hey, are you Ridwan Fufa?" I was like, "Yeah." And then they just grabbed him and put him in that truck, and then took him to the police station. But before that, they called them to the gendarmerie.
Like the national police, or like the secret, secret police.
So they took them in and they started asking them questions. So it started like this, just asking them questions. Hey, why are you so many people in the house? You're not a family. And then Ridwan was like, yeah, what do you mean we are not a family? It's like, yeah, you're not brothers and sisters, and so why are you accepting, you're living with people that you don't know, and there is men and women mixed together. And then he was like, no, it's like we are families. It's like married couples with children, old women. So it's like, what's the issue? So for them, it was already an issue that people are gathering in a house and living together, and this is exactly where it was. It was just them gathering in a house, like we can see, it's just children, old women. It's like there was nothing wrong with that.
How weak and pathetic of a government to see men, women, and children like this, totally harmless, committing no crime, absolutely no crime at all, gathering together only because they have no other place to gather. I mean, I think it's important. They cannot stay at home. Their families are pushing them out, literally throwing them out on the street. So they're simply gathering to practice their beliefs, obviously out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, these men, women, and children are not propagating the faith, rioting in the streets, calling for an uprising.
Exactly.
I mean, let's make that clear too, because maybe somebody at home who's watching this who's not familiar with the case, well, maybe they're out there calling for some new movement, or they're rioting, they're protesting. They're out in the middle of the jungle, here in the middle of an oasis here, and they're trying just to be peacefully protected, safe, and to practice their beliefs.
Yeah, it's just like literally gathering and talking about the same thing, sharing the same thoughts and ideas, like cooking together, going out to the park. It was literally this. There was no like preaching, there were no like let's go outside and bring people and convince people. Even themselves, they didn't convince each other. Each one knew about the call by themselves. They watched the channel or they went on YouTube. So it wasn't like even preaching between, amongst each other. And then they decided together, because our own family didn't understand why we were believing in that. Like my own grandmother was like, "Oh, you're so crazy." It's like, okay, so if you find me crazy, I need someone to talk to. I need someone to share my thought and idea, So this is exactly what they did. They gathered, sat in a house, and it was it. But then when they were arrested by the BRI, one of the officials says, okay, it all started because there was like some whispering. It's like, oh, these people, we heard that there is people gathering in a house, they're believing in something different.
So rumors. And
Exactly. It's like, so it started like this, and then they started to dig, okay, what is this, what they are believing in, let's look into that. And then they started to bring them to the...
So like the Algerian equivalent to the CIA or the MI5, MI6, these henchmen, these government henchmen come, kidnap them, abduct them, take them, confiscate, we talked about this yesterday, confiscate their computers, their phones, forcefully, without any justification, go through their phones, go through their social media, obviously have a big problem, the fact that they're reading material. I mean, they had some PDFs of the book, and they have some social media posts and things like this. What happens next after they're taken? If you can kind of let the viewers at home and on live stream understand when they were taken, because I want to get to this point where they're at the station, and then what happens in the court after that?
So it started first like to bring them a lot every single day for a while, like asking them questions, like keeping them for 14 hours in a room, like a small room. They had to sit on the floor. They weren't allowed to go out to get some food. They weren't allowed to bring in some food. So they were keeping like elderly children, like all of them. They called all of them in there and just wait and take one by one and ask this exact same question. Why do you believe in this? Why do you believe in that? We have issues that you believe that alcohol is permissible. I mean, come on. Algeria produces alcohol. Yes. Algeria produces beer and wine, and they have a law that says legal age is 18. So it means that you are allowing, and they give license for the shops to be able to sell alcohol. So what's the issue? Why is it so heavy for you that I say it's permissible when you permit it yourself? It's that this is the issue. It's like, as long as it comes from me, it's fine. But if you say that, no, you don't do the law, I do the laws. So then they started also to harass them and even insulting them. Like they take a couple and say to the husband, he's like, hey, do you like when I look at your wife and she's not wearing hijab? Do you like it when I look at her, And she's like almost naked.
You see, it's like this like psychological, emotional torture.
Exactly. They want to ignite something because they don't have a base, they don't have like a good reason to arrest them. So they're trying to, ignite something for them to fight back so they can, get them. Yeah, exactly. And then, so they kept doing that until the 6th of June, when they called them to the court. And the prosecutor gathered them in the office.
That's the last year.
Yes. Yeah. He gathered them in the office, and he was like, okay, I don't care if you believe in a rock or whatever, but are you willing, to drop your right because you believe in that? or you want to quit, your religion. And then they will.
By right, he's talking about their civilian rights.
Yes. Like you will be from this point. If you still believe in your religion, you will be no one.
Exiled.
It's like nothing. It's like you are not allowed to have it. It's like no identity, no nationality, no nothing. It's like completely as if you didn't exist.
A stray animal on the street, basically, is what they look at. That's what they're looking at.
And he was pushing. He was like, okay.
But where's the? We talked about this. Where's the legal aspect to this? It's like these are police officers. These are judicial. This is the judicial system trying to uphold their law. But like you're saying, like in terms of alcohol and things like this, like they have to abide by the law, but yet they're making the law attack their beliefs.
But if you look at the Article 51 of the Algerian Constitution, it says that they are allowed to believe in whatever they want. I don't know
if we have that article.
There is like this specific law that says that they are allowed to believe in whatever they want. Here it says like freedom of conscience and freedom of opinion shall be inviolable. Freedom of worship should be guaranteed and exercised without discrimination in compliance with the law. The state should impartially guarantee the protection of places of worship, which they didn't even have.
Have a place, just a house.
They didn't even have. And like if we count like other religions, like Christians, they burned their churches. It's like
so it's fake. The Algeria's constitution is fake. It's not real. It's not what's actually happening on the ground. I was shocked yesterday when you were telling me some of the cases in Algeria. I expect it from Iran. I expect it from Iraq. I expect it from Saudi Arabia, for example. Algeria, I wasn't clocking on to how bad this is. Maybe you can go into the fact that they were sentenced. They were actually sentenced for 1 year. They served 5 months, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
And during this time when they were going to court, the judge, who's supposed to be upholding this constitution that you just read, which is very clearly protecting all of the members of the faith, is acting like some religious marja or some sheikh on the podium and lecturing them about their beliefs and condemning them, actually charging them for their beliefs.
Yeah, they did. And even like the judge was like, okay, we shouldn't even have this,
trial?
This trial. It's like it's something that should be taking place in a masjid. But let's have a chit-chat, It's like, okay, let's talk about it. And even Radwan, Khaldin and Sharif, they weren't even allowed to be in the court. It was like they were just on cameras. And then they brought the other ones who were under arrest.
It's unbelievable. Actually, they just pulled up, and just to validate this, they just pulled up the court judgment. Hadil, and if you can read that for us.
Yes. So this is definitely the verdict that came out after they sentenced them, again without a fair trial. And here you can see that they are mentioning the exact tenets of the faith of the religion in the second paragraph, and the court is saying that the felony of mocking Islam is now put on this group. And then they state the tenets of the faith. So they say because they belong to a new religion that they call the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, which its tenets of faith include praying without stipulating a certain form, fasting in another time other than the agreed time of Ramadan. So their Ramadan is in December of every year, literally stating the way that we are fasting in the Ahmadi religion of peace and light. And they say that as for our Ramadan, they do not commit to it. On top of that, they believe that the holy house of God, or that the Kaaba is not in Mecca and it's in Petra instead. They also say that drinking alcohol is not forbidden, but it's left to personal freedom. And after they list all of these tenets of faith, they say here that we are going to many fatwas that have previously been issued by the by the Supreme Islamic Council, and we are referring to many fatwas of esteemed religious scholars in Algeria. And based on all of this, we state that this is a misguided group and it is outside of Islam, and the creeds and rituals of this group is false in its entirety, and it's clear contradiction with the tenets of Islam that have been stipulated in the Quran and in the prophetic narrations and prophetic traditions. And it goes against what the nation and its scholars have agreed on for over 14 centuries of fixed beliefs. And because of all this, it is incumbent for them to be condemned and punished according to the law. So here you have an official verdict from an Islamic country that, as you said, is not known to be an extreme or fundamentalist state.
That sounds very extreme and fundamentalist.
That's the scary thing, that this is now an established norm in a country that's not known to be a fundamentalist country, and this is their stance. So, and this proves what we're saying, that they're not safe in any Muslim majority country. This same verdict, you can read it as it is coming from Egypt. You can read it, it wouldn't be different. They are saying that because you believe in this holy book and you believe in these tenets of faith, you are punishable. And the really scary thing, which was really, really shocking in what Yasmin was saying, because you believe in these tenets of faith, you're not a citizen. And that is such a clear violation of, this is a complete erosion of the rule of law, where your constitution says that freedom of religion is guaranteed, but here you are telling a group of people, if you believe in this,
there's no we're throwing out the constitution.
We're not, you don't deserve to get education, you don't deserve to work, you don't deserve to have housing, you don't even deserve to be Algerian. We are taking the citizenship away from you. Can you believe to what length they have gotten and what danger there is? Because the other aspect, by the way, of this verdict, there's the sentence that's in this letter, in this verdict, but the other aspect of it, there is a fatwa, meaning what many people don't know is that even though the group was released, and I'm sure Yasmin is going to go more into this, there is another aspect, which is this is a religious verdict that still stands, where the Algerian authority is still claiming and saying that this group of people are outside of Islam, which basically in other terms means what? Means if you still remain in Algeria with this fatwa being out, you are in extreme danger.
I just want to translate that for the people at home because Hadil, she's very soft with her words. I think what she's trying to say is because you're outside of Islam and because we've deemed you heretical, we can come take your house, we can rape your women, we can take your children, we can freeze your bank accounts and steal your money, we can come shoot up your house and your vehicles anytime that we want, we can throw you in prison anytime that we want, we can beat you and torture you anytime that we want, we can do absolutely anything possible, and we enjoy doing that, and we encourage anybody out there to do that. That's what a fatwa is, because somebody coming from a non-Muslim background from a long time ago, when you watch on the news that a fatwa has been issued, I don't think the Western people understand how dangerous that is. And you mentioned your mom said, I'm afraid to walk outside. Why? Not necessarily because of this person who wrote this judgment. It's the people who hear about this judgment on the streets that say, that's a non-believer, that person has been judged and condemned by our religious scholars, that's in their minds open game, I can do whatever I want to these people.
Because they made it that way. It's like when the whole thing started, the police, they spread the message to the other station, all over Algeria, and they just spread the words. Okay, we have these people, they believe in this and this, and they started with the families. They go and knock on their door, and they're like, hey, your son is making problems. He believes in this and this, and he doesn't want to stop, and he's fighting. But they weren't fighting. Like even when they came to search the house, they just stood there watching them ripping off all their clothes and throwing things everywhere to find what?
Yeah,
nothing. They didn't find anything. They are not drug dealers. They don't have weapons. They have a thought.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some of the pictures, non-aggression happening here. with these members and just trying to be safe, trying to find a group of people who are like-minded that they can share their thoughts and their feelings with and their beliefs. It's a crime, and that's the crime, that this is taking place, and they can't exist here anymore. I mean, I think that's the point, is where are they supposed to go? How do you live a life in Algeria? We're going to go country by country throughout today and tomorrow, but I mean, you tell the people yourself, how do you live in Algeria under these circumstances?
Even one of the couple, Rabha Belfirud and her husband, they had family come to them while they were under house arrest. They were banging at the doors, they were shouting and insulting them, and they were like, we have a paper from an official,
a prosecutor.
Yes, and they like, he's allowing them to take their own kids because their parents are believing in something, and we don't agree. So we can actually watch a video.
Yeah, I think we have that video, if we can play that so the people at home can see this.
عليكم، أنا محمد بالفيرود وزوجتي مازوزي رابحة من معتنقي دين السلام ونور الأحمدي. جينا البجاية من أجل التعايش مع إخوتنا، ولكن كي مرت 21 يوم تفاجئنا بفصل الأبناء علي والمهدي من الدراسة بشطب أسمائهما من قوائم التلاميذ في المدرسة اللي كانوا يدرسوا فيها.
وبعد مدة من انتشار قضيتنا جاءت عائلتي وعائلة زوجي إلى بجاية، وقصد إجبارنا على الرجوع معهم، وكان معهم ملف مجهزين ملف فيه قرار الشطب وفيه وثائق أخرى من أجل تقديمه إلى وكيل الجمهورية كمحاولة لأخذ الحضانة منا، كوننا أننا نعتنق هذا الدين الذي هو بالنسبة إليهم كفر وارتداد عن الإسلام. وبالفعل ذهب والد زوجي إلى وكيل الجمهورية ليقدم له هذا الملف، لكن كانت الفترة غير مناسبة كون الأطفال كانوا في عطلة، فاقترح عليه أن يعود في شهر سبتمبر، مما سبب لنا بعض المعاناة بهذا الإجراء. أراد أن يأخذ الأولاد منا كوننا خرجنا عن الدين ولا نستحق تربية الأولاد،
يعني انتزاع الحضانة بكوننا قد غادرنا المجتمع وكفرنا، يعني ارتدينا عن الدين، يعني نحن نعد مرتدين عن دين الإسلام. هذا هو يعني علاش شد الملف إلى وكيل الدولة بمحكمة بجاية. وأظن السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Everyone saw it themselves. Hadil, you actually mentioned off camera, one of the tragic things happening right here is that the kids are being affected greatly too, not just with their lives, but even their education. They are ripping the kids' education from them. So it's not even like you mentioned, kids being ripped from their parents. They're even saying, even if you get to stay with your parents, you don't even deserve basic education because your parents believe in what they do.
And this is really, I mean, if you just take a moment and just understand what was just said, this is such an outrageous violation of children's rights. I mean, what is their fault? What did they do, innocent children, I mean, imagine such a world where they give themselves the right to, as a child, to rip you away from your parents because of the choice of the parents, because of their belief.
I hear these YouTube videos all the time, so-called Muslims and scholars, why do the Western world see us as barbarians? Well, this is why they call you barbarians. This is why they say that your religion is barbaric, because of acts like this.
And on top of that, so they give themselves the right to, I mean, I'm just trying to imagine these children that day, that fear. They're in the house with their mom, with their dad, and there's like literally a mob of people banging on the door. We are here to take your kids away from you because you believe in what you believe in. And on top of that, we have the backing of the public prosecutor. It's insane what these kids had to go through. And on top of that, giving themselves the right to terminate the kids' education. I mean, what is that? On what basis? What future does this child have? So it's a complete erosion of law, complete violation of human rights, complete violation of children's rights on no basis. They haven't committed a crime. So just to think how the implications of this is so far-reaching, literally ruining people's lives, ruining their childhood. What life is there? I mean, such an important aspect that Yasmin was saying is the aspect of the fatwa. Because imagine this, the state now, after they release them, they are actively calling workplaces, family members, schools, telling them these people are murtad, these people are outside of Islam. I mean, what's the intention of that? The intention of that is literally throw them to all forms of violations.
Right after Radwan came out of prison, a week or two later, he received that letter that says that his business register was cancelled. It's like because they heard from them, so they stopped. So you are not allowed to work, you are not allowed to move, because that fatwa said they should be stopped even from moving. So for them, it's like, okay, your only option is to stay in their house.
Yeah.
It's exactly
I think this is what we were trying to reiterate yesterday and now today. This is not about, and these are law-abiding citizens. These are, and I think that's what the sister was trying to say in her statement. Look, we're from all different classes and economy. These are men, women, children who are, some of them very well off. They're not fleeing because they're living an unhappy, an unsustained life. They were okay before this book.
We have dentists, we have teachers, it's not like, we're not talking about drug dealers, we're not talking about people homeless, we're not talking about people that had nothing, they were educated, they had a life, so that the only crime is they had a thought that they will believe in it, and khalas,
and now
this is how
they are gathered. They literally are gathered right now on the border because now that life's been stripped away from them. They don't have a life anymore. We've been saying that they face multiple threats of death, but even if there were a few isolated cases that they weren't being threatened with death, they're getting their children stripped from them. They're getting their education stripped from them. They're getting their jobs and their businesses stripped from them. They're getting their houses stripped from them. What are they supposed to do? Are they now to become homeless people and to fear for their life constantly, or are they supposed to go somewhere and seek protection? So that's the point that we're trying to make, is they have no other option but
because
this.
When they were living in the house, even the one who rented the house, it's like Radwan had this contract with that guy, and then when they got arrested, the guy wanted to terminate the contract.
The rent contract?
Yes. Why? Because he received a call from the police. So now they're gonna come out and they have only a few months to find somewhere else to live. What do we do? Where do we go? My family doesn't want me, and the police is spreading the word and telling people that we are not allowed to live anywhere because we are disbeliever, we are apostate, we are criminals, and
look how dirty that is, though.
I mean, they destroyed their lives.
But look how dirty that is. So the police want to execute them.
Yes.
The government wants to line them up and execute them, but they don't want to, politically, don't want to get their hands dirty. So they make these phone calls, they send out these letters. Look, these guys they're not believers, they're apostates, they're anything goes with these people. They're encouraging violence.
So can you imagine, like Algeria, we had like a big phase of terrorism where we have extremists there who are ready to just like cut off your head, like, you know, coldly. So can you imagine like a fatwa from the Minister of Religion giving this fatwa like, hey, you know what, we have people that are mocking our religion. Just stop them. For them, it's like, that's okay, I have, the law is with me. You know, the law is allowing me to do that. So I'm going to get the people.
Yeah, God.
You know?
Yeah, the law is with me, God is with me.
Yes.
My religious scholar, who, I mean, a lot of these people adore, and they listen to every single breath that they say, it's a green light. It's like these religious scholars and these judges and these police are putting hits out on people because they have a different belief than theirs, and they're trying to practice it safely. I mean, if this is not a humanitarian crisis, if this is not a case, and that's why these organizations are supporting them. I mean, it's clear now. I think everyone can see why these human rights organizations are getting behind this case, because this is a problem. You know, this is not a few isolated events of being threatened or, you know, being abused or being, I mean, this is life or death for these individuals here. And you know, we're running out of time in this segment, but I wanted you to, you know, give us a brief overview of some of the extreme cases that you know of, that you've heard from your uncle and your mother, that's happened to the men, women, and children there, that's led to this point, and kind of catch us up to today and the march tomorrow, and your final thoughts on this, and any efforts that have been made by any organizations that you've dealt with or you and Hadil have worked with, if there's anything you want to say.
And also please mention there's a whole other chapter, maybe you can wrap it up quick, on the prison. Actually, what happened to the group in the prison.
The prison, you know, it's like when they came in, like the first thing they did, and Radwan mentioned it, and the first thing is they undressed them, and then they called the people, and they were like, hey, look, this is the kuffar. Wow. You know, this is the kuffar.
To the inmates.
Yes, and some of the other guards. You know, it's like you are humiliating, and they were pushing them against the wall, and you know, it's like you mentioned yesterday, they are in prison, and in prison there is guards. You know, like you said, the guards are for what? What are guards in prison?
Supposed to protect you from the inmates.
Exactly right. They are human beings. It's not animals. Even animals are not treated like that. You know, and then so it started like that, and then, you know, I can't even describe it. It's like, it's mental torture. They put them in the cell between what? Between a homosexual who plays music the whole day. He was like, okay, since you think that homosexual, you know, we should accept them and everything, so you're gonna be next to him. And then he plays music the whole day and everything. And then on the other side, there was an extremist who killed people and who was told to teach them the religion. So he, like, reading the Quran out loud the whole day, and you know, and he's like, and at one point, the inmate like banging on the walls and on the door and saying kuffar, kuffar, you know, it's like for hours and hours. It was like, can you imagine, we are in a cell, just 3 of us, and 3 of them, it was on purpose. So for them, they don't corrupt the other people. So they put them there, and then can you imagine, you first thing, you come in a prison, you never went to prison. It's your first time. You don't know. You think, okay, in prison, at least I'm in a cell, so I'm protected. You know, from the outside world, or I don't know, but no. It was actually... They
had no idea what would happen to them. I mean, that's torture.
And then, like, food, forget about food. They didn't get any food. They weren't allowed to have soap. Like when others were allowed to have soap. And then, you know, the family should come and check on you. But they weren't. They had one visit every 15 days, and they weren't allowed to call their lawyer. So the lawyer has to do a request and then wait, and then they have a permission so he can go and see them. And then
they shaved their heads off.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
This is such a clear attempt to break them psychologically and to humiliate them.
And then, you know,
mark them.
It actually, like one of them, it was, I think it was Sharif. you know, he has like a nice hair, and he said it as a joke because he didn't think that they were actually arresting them. He was like, you know, when they were cuffing them, he was like, okay, please do whatever you want, but don't shave my head. So can you imagine, like, they got that. It was a pleasure for them to just shave his head. You know, it was,
No, I always wanted to stay up in the region.
Yeah,
and,
that's Sharif.
It's the Algerian government's absolutely extreme. You know, like this last 2 days has changed my viewpoint on Algeria as a whole. I've never heard of a judge standing on a stand acting like a sheikh or a scholar. I've never heard of people absolutely losing their right to be a human being in a country that supposedly is supposed to protect their beliefs, and their constitution says so. At least people attack America or attack Western countries for their crimes against humanity and all these different things. At the least bit, their constitution, they try to apparently uphold it to where, here you have Algeria and the constitution that they have, and they just sit there and just throw it out the window. You don't believe in what we believe, and like you don't deserve to exist.
When Erdogan was in prison, then he got sick, because of the food. Oh, this is...
Here's one of the families.
Yeah, so this is Sharif and his wife.
After they shaved his head. Yeah. Look at his child. The courage and the faith of these men, women, and children to go through what they have and to sit there and still be able to passionately, boldly proclaim that this is my belief. You can take my house, you can take my children, you can take my relatives, you can take my humanity, but you're not going to take my faith. That's what I'm going to say. That's beautiful.
And the story of Sharif and Suhaila is also really, really touching, because they've been trying to have, they've been waiting for 5 years to have a child, and then when they took him in prison and she was under house arrest, she felt that she was pregnant, and she was actually pregnant. And she knew that she was pregnant, but she couldn't reach her husband. She couldn't tell him, He knew from the lawyer who told Erdogan when he got a visit, and then actually, oh my God, my wife is pregnant. And for 4 months, they weren't allowed to see each other. Can you imagine
the torture on both sides?
Exactly, 5 years waiting, and you know that your wife is pregnant for the first time after all this time, and I can't even see her, and I don't know if I'll be able to be out and see the baby and see my wife on whatever. Yes, and even herself, she didn't know what's going to happen. Am I going to prison? And she was under house arrest. They were going through the trial, so she didn't know what the outcome will be.
This is disgusting. I think let's watch this clip. I want to see it.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. يا خوتي رانا نشينا نطالبوا غير بالأمن والأمان وحق المعتقد، وخاصة للصغير هذا رزقنا به ربي. نطالبوا أحمد، اسمه أحمد، نطالبوا بالأمن والأمان وحقه هو في المعتقد. طالبوا بحقه هو كهكذا صغير يكبر في حرية ويعتقد باش يحب ويعيش في الأمن والأمان. هذا وش نطلبوا، وشكرا، بارك الله فيكم.
After 5 years waiting to have a child, they've experienced this together. They didn't know if they'd see each other again. They come back together, and their only wish is not to live together and have all these experiences as a family. Just please allow my child to grow up in a place where they can have their basic rights of human freedom and religious beliefs. And that's what they're marching for tomorrow, that safety and that freedom. Do you have any final thoughts on the march tomorrow? We're all awaiting, I think, seeing the men, women, and children there. So I'm sure seeing your uncle there, you said it was very touching. What's your energy, and what do you see happening tomorrow? What are you wishing for? What are you praying for?
No, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for humanity, and I hope that people will actually see that, see like all these young children, these old women, these men and women coming together and trying to just have a life. It's nothing, it's just have a life. I just want to live. And I have an idea and I just want like those countries or those people to help me just like to think by myself, you know. I don't need other people to push other thoughts on me. I just have my own thought and I want to live with it peacefully, you know. So I just hope, and I think people will do, you know. I mean, like, if part of humanity is to have a heart, we all have hearts, you know. We all go through hardship, and those hardships make people, you know, think and see when we see people going through something like that. So I hope people will get up and join this, you know, these people and help them go through it and give them a safe place, a refuge, and just to be together, and basically a basic right to have a life.
Yes, and we pray for their success, and we thank all the organizations that are involved right now to make sure that this happens. We will be going to break. We will be coming back with Hamid Riza. We'll be discussing all of the crimes that's been going on in Iran. We would like to invite all of the people watching via satellite in the MENA region to go to our Facebook Live events page. Just go to Humanity Before Borders. We have a lot of exciting updates happening right now. As we mentioned earlier, the open letter was publicly posted today. This was very big for the men, women, and children on the border. You've actually been contacted by media as we've been on air, interested in covering this story. We have press on the ground. We talked with Alexandra. We will be keeping in touch with them throughout the day today and all day tomorrow. We're very excited. We're going to have a very early start tomorrow. We're going to be covering the entire march from the ride all the way to the border. We don't know what to expect, so please stay tuned with us. If you want more information, go to our Facebook events page and support us there. We will be back in the next 15 minutes after you watch this documentary on Iran with Hamid Riza.